Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland and Arsenal podcast. I'm Gimli and tonight my guests are... First up, he's like a fat hairy compass that points us in the right direction every week. It's Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
Ahoy, hoy. It's very windy here. I could be blown away by some hurricane at any moment.
It's Hurricane Phil Neville.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because they're literally his tears that have been blown in from Spain.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Next up, the Tindertastic man behind the numbers. It's Andrew Fife. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Gimli. How you doing?
Oh, love that voice.
It's like a little festive opening of an advent calendar for you today.
It went all robotic then.
Oh, really? Just like my opinions. How are you doing, Gimli? All right?
Yeah, I'm wonderful, thank you very much. Not stressed out at all. We'll move on.
Really?
Yeah. Next up, from one holic to another, different type of holic though, Goonaholic. David, how are you?
I'm brilliant, thank you, Gimli. I hope you're well as well.
I am. Have you got a nice pint of dark on the go or something like that?
I have at the moment, yeah. I desperately need it because I've got a little bit of trouble with the old throat still. But the best cough medicine there is.
Spicy food.
Draft bass and thirsty ferret.
But have you had any curry, anything like that? That'll sort you right out.
Last week, it didn't work.
Oh, that's a shame. Right, and finally, the man they call the King, Mark King. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Gims. How you doing?
See, I never know how to approach it with you. I did the first insulting one about your Mac when was it? A couple of months back.
Yeah.
So you got a nice one this time.
Yeah, I did, yeah. But you can slag me off, mate. That's fine. You'll probably get more of your listeners happy by having a pop at me, so that's all right.
It's all right. If I want to slag you off, I'll get Jeff Arsenal on here.
No comment.
Hello, Jeff, by the way. Right, as always, we go over to the fat man who has all of the scores across the board and a loan watch.
Kim.
What? You haven't done it, have you?
No loan watch.
What?
I was at my brother's all day.
Okay.
Splish splash in his jacuzzi.
Should we do that again then?
No, I've got to score some scores though.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, lovely, jubbly. Right, the under-18s went to West Ham and they drew 2-2 with a couple of goals from Eddie Nikita. Well done, Eddie. In that league, apparently, according to soccerway.com, which has usually got his head stuck in the 60s because it's so far behind, we are now 5th after that draw in the league, and the top 4 go through to the championship round, the middle 4 in the playoff round, but we've got a few games to go yet before we're at that point. So at least we scored 33 goals, which isn't too bad, but Chelsea have scored 50. And a weird result in there's the North and the South League for the under-18s. Everton running away with the league in first place. Wolverhampton Wanderers, they were down in, I think, 9th place. Wolves went to Everton, beat them 8-0. Hey, what do you think to that?
Not a lot.
There you go then. Under-21s, the under-21s were at home to Brighton and we beat them 2-1. Callum Chambers started, and I think they said from the write-up that he played in central defence. We got goals from Mallon and Sheaf, and they got one from Goldston. In the under-21 league now, we are 3rd. Still got 4 games in hand behind Derby, who have got 4 more points than us, so you never know. The under-21 league, not looking too bad. And the Loan Watch, had some players, played some games, none of them did anything spectacular, and then they went home.
Yeah, we can have a... because you're so...
What? So just to cut in where you said no one did anything spectacular, apparently Zalalem got an assist.
He plays every game. Rangers are running away with that league. I think they've had they've won every game apart from one they drew and one they lost.
Admit it, Danny, you just don't care anymore.
Do you want a very brief loan update?
Yeah, go on, Mark. Bring a bit of class to the show.
Zelalem played for Rangers, as Andrew said. He did have an assist, and he's still getting very positive reviews from Rangers fans up there. Hayden and Akpom both started for Hull in their defeat.
Where are you getting this from?
Off the top of my head, mate.
No, you're not.
Well, I am actually.
Did you hear that?
I've been done.
Hayden and Akpom both started for Hull. I think Akpom came off sometime around half-time, maybe. He didn't play a very great part in City's first goal. Terrell, I think, had a decent game for Birmingham. I watched Sanogo play the last few minutes for Ajax against Celtic last week, and he is still as shit as I remember he was.
Poor bastard.
And can't really remember or comment on any of the others. There you go.
Oh, cheers.
Fantastic. Better than what Danny had for us.
If only you could press record, you could take over from me.
Never. Nobody could take over from you.
Did any of you guys watch the video on Arsenal.com of Steve Gatting? So the guy's the coach of the under-21s who was praising Callum Chambers. Do you not think he looks like Thunderbirds?
Isn't he related?
Callum Chambers?
Isn't he related to Mike Gatting?
Steve Gatting, he's changed. Yeah, he's his brother.
I thought it was. Remember that when he was at Brighton, wasn't he? Played at Brighton?
Played at us. Played for us.
Chambers played DM for the under-21s.
Yes, he did.
I only had a quick read of that. Look, because I've been out all day. I only got back home at 7 o'clock, and Gimli's been spending the last half hour shouting and ranting about the Welsh.
I haven't.
Bloody have.
Oh, fair enough.
Shit.
So first on the agenda then is our 1-1 draw with Norwich. And for his analysis, we'll go straight over to Mark.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that. Well, I was at the game. Lovely trip. Either side of the football.
Did you fly?
Fucking hell. I did fly actually because I got caught by a speed camera on the way back, but that's another matter. Yeah, I'm in the game. What can I say? It was horrible conditions for the game, and Norwich have got a very, quite open ground. So, it was obviously wasn't going to be a classic, but you sort of tend to think that even if it's that bad, it should suit us a bit more because we want to keep the ball on the floor and pass it around. But we just, I don't know, we didn't look on top of our game, but they were pretty poor, and we were sort of fairly in control. Get the goal. Good work by Alexis. Lovely finish by Ozil. And then we sort of kind of took our foot off and sort of thought we'd potter towards half time and just gave away an absolutely shocking goal that somebody else can cover. And basically just before half time, they should have gone 2-1 up. And the guy who put the ball over was right in front of us. And when he put the ball across and you saw this yellow shirt at the far post, you just thought, well, that's 2-1. But somehow he conspired to miss it. And then second half, I think it can be summed up with one statement. John, I believe, made a single save in the second half. And that tells you everything, apart from, obviously, the injuries that we suffered. 3 injuries. Only we could have 3 injuries to 3 key players, all in the one game.
We'll go into the injuries later in the game, but I'll chuck a stat out there for you, David. Ozil has been involved in 13 goals in the last 12 games. Oh, he's just incredible, isn't he?
Yes, Ozil, absolutely fantastic. He's in the form of his life at the moment, and thank goodness he wasn't one of the guys that got injured, because his output at the moment, both scoring more recently as well as his creating, been fantastic to watch, and we're very lucky to have him.
Yeah, they did say that he was spending extra time back in training, and he was trying to get more goals under his belt, and it certainly looks like he's doing that, doesn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, he looks like a completely different player this season. I mean, we've always seen class from Ozil every season, but this is the first season where we've seen him do it consistently, game in, game out for us. What I would say is, I think. I know we're going to come on to the injuries, but one of the biggest shames for me is that Arsenal have been on a very good calendar year, which we all seem to have quite strangely. But since they kind of muddled together between the 3 of them, Coquelin, Santi and Ozil, and since they've kind of moulded together and got that midfield 3, they've all had such brilliant years. So it's a shame that with the 2 main protagonists in the centre there, I'm a little bit worried what's going to happen to Ozil's game. A lot of the great play that Mark alluded to in the first 30 minutes, I think we had 7 good chances, came from just sheer pressing by the team. I think Ramsey was playing high up the pitch. Sanchez, was tracking them down, which led to the goal. And that kind of play really suits Ozil as well, because it allows him just pick up the passes, in that high tempo game. And I'm a little bit concerned now with all these injuries. We're going to see, a decent Ozil's quality, not necessarily through any fault of his own, just through the team, looking so ungelled as it may come. I'm a bit concerned about that.
And Danny, Arsene Wenger said after the game, it wasn't in his press conference, it was in the interview that he gave to the BBC, that the team were jaded, and maybe pointed towards that as the reason we didn't win the game. What do you think he meant by that, and why do you think they're jaded?
Jay, you want to try watching it? You want to try watching all of our last run of games. We've had one win in the last 5. That's bloody jading. Sitting there getting paid £8 million a year to not buy players. That's not jading at all. It's just coming up with more bullshit excuses the whole time because his plan of we only need one player for every position and then maybe a backup player every now and then for the odd position, or hopefully a player who can play in as many positions as possible. He's just coming out with stuff to try and make it look like he knows what he's doing when his plans aren't working. Like, people seem to have all too quickly forgot his complete disaster of 3 consecutive youth policy systems. Each one, like, remember the wages parity, where you had player youth kids on 40 grand a week, the same as some of the senior ones. Absolute joke. And yet again, he seems to want to play football and win stuff doing it his way, and it's not working. And it's really beginning to wind me up. And when he sits there, and I think even he believes the bullshit that he comes out with for the reasons. Like, the players were playing shit because Norwich have sussed us out and they didn't let us play. And it's very much like, if a team stops us from playing, we get the hump and we stop playing. Sanchez shouldn't have played because he had this slight, was it a calf strain or something like that, or hamstring?
It was a hamstring. He said in the press conference before the game that Alexis Sanchez was nursing tight muscles, tight hamstrings, but he would still play him. I think he alluded more to the fact that he couldn't not play him in this game.
He could have not played him by getting, like I said in the summer, a DM, a left-sided striker or winger, midfielder, and a striker. I just think if we'd have had all those now, we'd be going, Coquelin's out, doesn't really matter because we've got Schneidlin that we bought for 25 million. I don't care about how much is he on a week. It's not Wenger's money. When I'm playing Football Manager, I don't go, actually, I'd rather have 20 million, 80 million pound in the bank than go and buy the players I need to win stuff. All these years, he just keeps doing it. I'm just getting more and more annoyed with him. When he does well and we play well, like the games against Man United and Bayern, I go, well done, Wenger, masterstroke, you've done your job brilliantly. But when this run of shit games that we've been playing, I remember a little while ago we went, when we were playing West Brom and Norwich, every single person said, yeah, we'll win both of those two. What did we get? We got 1 point. So we've had 2 points out of the possible 9 from our last run of games. It's horrendous. And now it's just going to keep getting worse because we've got these players coming back that are going to take a few games to, although they may be fit, doesn't mean they're game fit. And then Sunderland, they're on a run of two games in a row, 2 wins in the Premier League without conceding a goal. So they're going to be no mugs when they come and play us. Then we've got Olympiacos. That's going to be even more fucking of a nightmare. And then we've got Man City. And I doubt very much, like Klopp, who people think's an idiot, I doubt very much we're going to play Man City at home and beat them 4-1. They're going to come and kill us. I'm just angry. I'm fed up with it all.
God, why don't you hold back a little bit?
I'm trying not to swear too much. My mum tells me I swear too much.
So I think the main talking point behind this game is probably the injuries. And I'm thinking, Danny, that maybe we change the predictions league to not score and scorers, but to which Arsenal player is going to be carried off injured first or going off injured first.
Did you know somebody already does that?
Today?
Yeah, Dom. This is a WhatsApp message from Dom. He says, where was it? My ones are in green. That's why...
Or maybe we should do a predictions league with another point for the person that goes off first injured.
Yeah, well, I think the gist of it was he said that he's no longer going to predict scores, he's going to predict injuries. And he said Monreal, half-time, I think it was. So I can't remember. Oh, no, his are the white ones. I've been reading the green ones. Yeah, anyway, so Dom's beat us to it.
So, first up, Koscielny then. And I don't think this is a serious one. Does anyone know the reason that he went off? Was it a hip?
Even Dom doesn't know about that.
Okay?
He was holding it was right in front of us, and he was kind of holding his side, his hip. Couldn't really tell, and he looked in a lot of pain. And obviously, like very quickly, Lewin said he couldn't go on, and they needed a sub on. So Gabriel had a little bit of a run up and down, and then they got him on. Surprisingly, he didn't ping anything because he didn't get a proper warm-up. But, by the time Koscielny had walked all around the pitch and was over the other side by the dugouts, he was walking a lot better. So it wasn't a major surprise to find out he wasn't as bad as we first thought.
I think what it was a trapped nerve in the back, so that kind of disabled him completely for a while. But with treatment, it responded to treatment.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think they've said, Arsene Wenger has said that he's going to be back for Sunderland, or he could be back for Sunderland. So, there's a little bit of positivity there. But the next one is possibly the biggest blow that our season could possibly take, is Alexis. Now, David, he spoke about the game, as we've already touched on. Alexis, possibly carrying a hamstring strain. Suicidal playing him, really, wasn't it?
Well, he said I think, to be fair, he'd said that he'd had a tweak in his press conference and that they would make a decision about him nearer kickoff time. And obviously what happened is that the medical team it's a very difficult thing, obviously, for you to be able to predict whether a hamstring's going to go or not. But they were happy enough with the measurements that they had, and he was happy. And obviously Sanchez wanted to play. He didn't play just because Sanchez said he was okay. He did get the okay from the medical team as well. But it's not an exact science, unfortunately, hamstrings. And I kind of feel a little bit sorry for the stick that he's been taking in that regard. But if you were to say to me, isn't Sanchez due a rest anyway? I think I heard somewhere the other day he's already played 30 matches this season across 2 continents. So there's a lot of travelling involved as well. And I thought, if you can't rest him against Norwich, who the hell can you rest him against? But that's if he had done so, then people would have been complaining that let's face it, we didn't beat Norwich with him. If we hadn't beaten them without him, Arsenal would have been taking stick for not picking his strongest team.
It's very
Dave,
much.
Just to cut in, sorry, Dave. Just on that stat, do you know if that includes the Copa America games or not?
I believe it did.
I mean, because
that was how I considered it anyway.
Because he already looked knackered when he came back. I mean, he didn't start until I think he came on against Palace, where his first game was Palace away.
And he looked West Ham on the opening day.
Oh, okay, yeah. He came on.
Crazy.
And his first start was Palace, wasn't it? But he looked knackered for the first 4 or 5 games. It wasn't as though he came and hit the ground running. He was absolutely shattered from the start, and he somehow found form, because that's Alexis. But it's like we've been walking on a knife edge.
Do you know what really pisses me off about all these arguments about Alexis? Now, I will say I have never seen a player like Alexis. The last Arsenal player that I saw who could run as much as this fella and never seemed to get injured was it wasn't Geordie, because I was a little bit too young to remember Geordie that well. It was Brian Talbot. Brian Talbot would run all day and never ever seemed to get that injured. So he is an incredible player. But what really pisses me off is that it seems to be that everybody gives the responsibility for Alexis playing or not to Alexis, and they relieve Wenger of all responsibility for it. Now, he is the manager. Now, whether or not his medical team, who, I'm not being funny, but have we all got the utmost of faith in the medical team? I doubt it. Whether they're saying no, his stats all say he's fine on that. Surely you must look at a fella and you must think, I'm going to give you a rest, and I don't give a shit if you want to play. I don't give a toss if you're going to be unhappy. You're going to have a rest. We don't need you to play away to Norwich. We need you for the games coming up. We need you for the Olympiacos game. That's far more important than bloody Norwich away. So you're going to have a rest. But no, again, he's got to grind him into the dirt. And he did this. When did Alexis get a rest last season? I think he missed the Brighton game maybe because he was injured. Something like that. It was a similar situation. He didn't get a rest. He got bloody injured. It was only a small one. But this time now he's out 4 weeks. So we're not going to even have him for Man City away. Man City at home.
He's not even being handled correctly by Chile either, is he? Because he went away to Chilean international duty carrying a knock, and they still played him for 90 minutes while he was over there as well. Then he had So, I mean, he's not really had a lot of respite. And I think I can agree with David when he says, if we can't rest him against Norwich, then when the bloody hell do we rest him?
I know, but what does that say as well to Joe Campbell? I mean, listen, I've not been Joe Campbell's biggest fan, but he had probably the best game I've seen him have in his Arsenal career against Zagreb in the week. And then he's on the bench against Norwich when, as you say, Sanchez needs that rest. Now, we should have a squad, as Danny says, deep enough to be able to cover for these kind of changes. I don't necessarily think Joel Campbell is the best player in the world, but, he's just had the game of his life. It's not as though we're going to fall apart without Sanchez for one game. Chamberlain's on the bench. The options are there if needs be. So it just really made little sense to take such a gamble again and to continue taking a gamble with his fitness.
And Alexis isn't the only one. Again, the list continues to grow. and there were some concerns for Santi Cazorla as we finished the game. Am I right in saying he might have limped off at the end? Well, it was confirmed that he is going to be out for a total of 4 months. So just how pivotal is that going to be to our season, Mark?
Well, I'd suppose we won't really know until we see what combinations we've got. But basically, what was our first choice combination of Coquelin, who's a supremely talented defensive midfielder, and Santi Cazorla, who I believed helped keep the ball recycling and ticking over and moving it up towards the attackers, and that from the midfield area has now gone. And we're not going to see it. Santi's gone for 4 months, Coquelin for 3. So, forget that for the next till virtually the spring. So now it's a question of who we're going to have there. So I think it is going to be a miss. There were a lot of, there were some very bizarre people who seemed to be happy that he'd picked up a knock and maybe was going to be out of the team, probably not realising it was 4 months, mainly because it maybe meant, they weren't confident with Santi there. And yes, he does struggle sometimes in the bigger games against bigger players when they get on top of him. But I still think him and Coquelin were the best two in the middle. But now we'll have to see. And the problem is not just losing one of them, it's losing both of them. So, what do we do? It's Flamini, or it seems to be maybe Chambers until at the very earliest December. So we'll have to see, and I'm assuming it will be Ramsey moving into the middle. So there's a bit of moving around, and it could all work out. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, a little bit of positivity from you, Mark. There, I like it.
It's not positivity, but it's kind of like there's no point of saying it's going to be shit, is it? Because we've got to see it. I mean, I'm sure everyone's disappointed that we've been left in this situation again. But we kind of have to wait. We can't just all go mental. I mean, Ramsey did have a very good season two ago playing from that sort of central midfield role. So we'll have to see whether he can replicate it. But, it's wait and see time.
And Danny,
I think that's a good point there. I was just going to say, I think that's a very good point. That season you allude to, he had a very good combination. His link-up play with Ozil was very good. Between him, Ozil, and Giroud up top, the three of them looked like a proper spine, didn't they?
They really did.
I just think he was doing that with Mikel Arteta as well. So it's not like he was playing with a recognised top of the tree defensive midfielder alongside him. So maybe Flamini and Rambo works because Rambo knows he's got to take a lot of the responsibility. So let's look on the bright side until it goes wrong.
I think we see the best from Aaron Ramsey when he simplifies his game. When he tries all the step overs and the fancy passing, I think that's when you see probably the worst of Aaron Ramsey's game. When he keeps it simple, I think that's when we see the best, and that's what he did in the season, where he didn't even have to think about it. It just came so naturally to him. So let's hope we see Ramsey hit a little bit of form. And these injuries, we're just going to have to cope with them. And, in the words of Arsene Wenger, when he comes back, he's going to be like a new signing. Danny, I've asked you to get the injury list. Have you got anything for us yet?
Sanchez, hamstring. Koscielny, hip thigh. Cazorla, knee. Coquelin, knee. Arteta, old age, calf, eyes, knees. His knees are grey, his eyes are bent. Rosicky, knee. Walcott, everything as usual. Welbeck, MIA, probably dead somewhere. Jack Wilshere, legs come off.
Have we got how long that those players are going to be out for with that?
I can go and find. I can bring up my thing, but the annoying thing is the wonderful people who do the injury website, Soccer Room. They've decided to have one of those wanky adverts that goes boom, 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 and really loud music, so it scares me, so I can't do it anymore. So you want to know how long they're going to be out for? Mm-hmm. Okay, it says here, I'm at fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, and then you go to injuries. It says Arteta sustained in the 2-1 defeat at West Brom on the 21st of November, which saw him forced off on 49 minutes. Return date unknown. In fact, I'm not going to tell you what happened, just the return date. Cazorla, unknown. Coquelin, unknown. Koscielny, the 5th of December. It says hip injury, and it says forced off. Rosicky, unknown. Knee injury. Sonogo, just shit. Szczesny's on loan. Alexis, unknown. Hamstring injury. Walcott, the 5th of December. So, that'd be good if he does. But it's going to take a couple of games before he'll be fit again. Welbeck, unknown. Wilshere, unknown. And there you go. basically,
I mean,
they don't know.
I think all yours are. I mean, if you're not sure if you looked on ArsenalReport.com, they've got of them. So they've got Walcott any day, Koscielny any day, Sanchez 3 weeks, Rosicky 4 weeks, Arteta 4 weeks, Welbeck 5 weeks. So that's gone from being bloody September to now January. Wilshere 5 weeks, Coquelin 2 more months, and Cazorla 3 months. Although it was only just come out today that Cazorla's going to be 4 months as opposed to 3.
I mean, how long is it going to be if we're picking up injuries at this rate before we actually find ourselves playing the likes of Big Jeff?
That's a question, actually. Here you go. I'll mix it in like we know what we're doing.
Yeah, let's have a question.
It is from the Gooner Talk, which is at the Gooner Talk. Will we see the likes of Iwobi and Adelaide? Adelaide. Yeah, I thought that's what it said, Adelaide.
You got it right.
Let leash on the bench. Oh, because we know him as other Jeff, or is it other Jeff? So he says, when will we see the likes of Iwobi and Adelaide let off the leash? That's a good question.
Tell you what.
You obviously didn't read my blog last night, then.
I don't read any unless you start doing the colouring in section. Go on, tell people where your blog is, Dave.
I'll do one. No, you're all right with that. But just to answer the question,
turning down free publicity. Oh, it's classy.
Not ever publicity. I'm here to talk about the Arsenal. But in answer to your question, we have, although we haven't quite got the full squad of 25, we've got 24 first-team squad players, of whom 9 are injured. So if you do a simple mathematical equation, we haven't got enough players in from the first-team squad to fill the bench on Saturday. So you're going to have a couple of the kids in. And I would think Jeff Rain Adelaide is going to be a shoe-in for one of them, and maybe even an outside option for that Alexis position on the left, depending on how strong or fit they expect the Ox to be. So he'll certainly be there. Looking as there's no striking option either, unless there's Joel Campbell, isn't there? So you might see one of the young midfielders in there as well.
Okay.
So we've got 21 players injured or out on loan.
I think I read a stat that said Arsenal have had all but one of their 23-man squad injured this season at some point or another.
Correct. Joel Campbell's the only one who hasn't been.
And he's shit.
That's not an illness or an injury.
Is it hereditary?
Oh,
but the thing, and do you know what? The issue is now that we're entering that period where the games will start stacking up over Christmas and New Year. We've got those, where they love to pack those holiday games in because the crowds are big and no winter break. So it's probably, I can't see it getting any better. You have to hope that it doesn't get any worse, because with those games coming thick and fast, your recovery time is even less. Your squad is short already, and we can't do nothing about that, even if we do, until January. So it's going to be a bumpy ride. So I suggest everybody buckles up.
Mm. Right, I've got a question here from myself then.
Gimli, have you got any questions from you?
Yes, I have.
Oh, tell us.
Do you know what? This week, it's a new feature that I've put in, Gimli's Question of the Week.
God.
No, that's Rainbow, isn't it?
Might as well be.
In essence, you could have the best starting 11 in the world, but if you don't prepare for injuries over the course of the season by buying for cover in the summer or having a plan B, at some point you are doomed for failure. Andrew, elaborate.
Yeah, no, this is something that I've touched upon on Twitter a few times and had some heated debate. But I find listen, we've got an extensive number of injuries, and I've never seen any club have injuries like in recent years. But the fact of the matter is, we dominate the injury list every single season. This isn't a once-off, and this isn't even the first injury crisis we've had this season. I know it's the worst it's been, but go back to September and look at the team we were fielding against Zagreb due to injuries. Look, we lost away in the Champions League to Dinamo Zagreb. That's embarrassing, and that was with only a handful of injuries. So what's it going to be like now? And the issue for me is that, and as you mentioned, you can blame injuries all you like, and it is obviously very unfortunate, and it is awful that we're picking up these injuries. But the underlying, the caveat to it all is when you have £88 million in the bank and you decide not to buy a single player, outfield player. oh, and by the way, you're the only team in Europe that doesn't buy an outfield player, that kind of excuse of injuries somewhat diminishes because it shows that you're not prepared to make a plan B. Now, the problem is Arsene Wenger looked like, a couple of years ago, he was starting to change. He was becoming he was becoming less spendthrift. So, we saw players like Alexis come in. We've seen, obviously, Ozil come in. We've seen some good squad players come in. And then this summer, it just seemed like he'd reverted to type, and it was such a shame because it's our biggest opportunity. This is the biggest opportunity we've had in years. And I remember John Cross at the AST meeting a few months ago said, if only Arsenal bought 2 more players, we'd win the league. And that was at a time when it was so early to call it that a lot of people had to go at him. But the problem is, we all knew this was going to happen. Just like last year when we went into the season with only 2 centre-backs and people said, James is a centre-back. Clearly he wasn't. We fucked up the first 3 months. We were out of the title and then we had to buy Gabriel in January, but we were already out. So the fact that we went into a season again with the same injury-prone players, if you've got a limited number of players in the squad and you've got Rosicky, you've got Ramsey, you've got Chamberlain, you've got Wilshere, players who get injured every single season for extended periods of the season. You're starting the season knowing that Welbeck's going to be out until January time, it looks like now. I mean, they're taking up valuable space. So you either say, right, we're going to move these players on and bring in players who aren't injury prone, or you're going to look at some of the dross in the squad, players like Chambers, players like Flamini, players like Arteta, players who aren't dispensable, and players like Joel Campbell, players you can dispose of and use players to bring in that money. And then it also takes some pressure off your Wilsheres and gives them a couple more years to try and get over their injury problems. But the fact of the matter is, we didn't buy any outfield player. We've put time and time again an unnecessary amount of pressure and stress on these players. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I know the reason why these players get injured. I'm not going to blame Arsene Wenger. I'm not going to blame the club because that's well above my pay grade and knowledge to know exactly why these players are injured. And I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons why, and it's probably very specific to each player why they're getting injured. But the underlying factor is they're not doing anything to counter it. We know every single season that this happens. This isn't the first time we've had a bad November. It's characteristic for Arsenal. How do you go and win every single game in October and then don't win a single game in November? It's because your squad's so deplete. And the reason is because we don't use the money to invest in bulking out that squad and bringing improvement to it. And Arsene Wenger has to take a lot of responsibility for that. I'm not going to blame him for the injuries themselves, but it isn't that it's not predictable. We all knew it was going to happen, so spend some of the money. Take a risk. And yeah, we're only a couple of points off the top. But the point is, we should be miles ahead in this league by now with all the inconsistencies around us. And we're just flitting away probably the best chance we've had of silverware in years.
No, very true. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, don't forget though. I just said we got first team squad of 24, and we're only allowed 25. So we could only have bought one, given that we still retained. I don't think there was ever any intention to let Arteta or Flamini go, and I know that's controversial. The only one I think might have been allowed to go because he wanted to go was Rosicky, and the way things worked out, he would only have been allowed to go if we could have signed 2 players and filled up the squad. The way things have worked out, it hasn't come off. It certainly hasn't come off, but we've got to remember that we're hindered by the numbers.
No, I don't disagree. Then that's why, sir. In some respects, you've got to kind of make a choice. I know we've got a few young players who are very talented and have a lot of potential. So your likes of Wilshere, Walcott, Chamberlain, and Ramsey, but they're all extremely injury prone. And then you've got another, and I'd call them our category B players. Then you've got your category C players. As I mentioned, your Arteta's, Flamini's. So you either say, right, we're going to get rid of some of those injury-prone players because we can't afford to keep having all these injury-prone players in our limited number of squad, or we get rid of some of the dross players and then we free up some space to bring in some more players, which then allows us to keep those, and hope that players like Will and Rao will stop becoming injured. But the problem is we didn't do anything to counter it, so we didn't look to. We didn't look to try and reduce even if we took a healthy balance and tried to reduce some of the dross, we just didn't. And so we've now got a squad where we've got our category A players, your Sanchez's and Ozils, who we're hoping never get injured. You've got your category B players, your injury-prone players, who we're hoping don't get injured too soon. And then we've got the category C players who we're hoping don't have to play that much, and it's just I don't know. I just feel like we could have used some of that money to really balance out that team, because we know that the injuries are going to hit us every season, and now it's come to the point where some of the missing Sanchez and Santi, who are two out and out game winners, is going to hit us hard, I think, and I'm pretty concerned about the Christmas period.
I agree. Right, we'll draw a line under that then, and we'll go to Mark next. There was an AST meeting this week, Mark, and I believe you and Andrew were there. What were the highlights and the lowlights for you?
Well, as people may know, I'm sort of more involved with the Black Scarf, but I did join AST. Thought I'd come along and have a look. It's the first AST meeting I've been to. It was very interesting. But the main things to me were there was a lot of stats from the people that do the surveys for the Premier League, some of which were very interesting. Maybe Andrew's got a few more details on them. There was a guy from the Premier League there who did a fantastic job of. We should get him out on the left wing. He had such a good body swerve on avoiding questions. The main question was mainly about what the Premier League will do from next season, specifically for away fans, in terms of supporter initiatives. Will they do what they did for each of the last 3 seasons, which was the £200,000 for each club that each club had to spend on supporter initiatives, and it was up to the club to decide on what they do. And at Arsenal, the decision was made that they would subsidise the away ticket prices. So I think for the last 2 seasons, we've had sort of £2.50 off for each away ticket, and for this season, I think it's about £4 off to finish off that pot of money. So, with the huge amount that they're getting in next season, what will they do for the next sort of 3-year period? And he kind of said, well, we can't make the clubs do anything, which is a bit weird, really, isn't it? Because you sort of think, well, you are the Premier League and they are the Premier League clubs. So, Scudamore tends to be able to say he'll get the Premier League clubs to do something when he wants, and says he can't when he also doesn't want to. So it's typical politics there. But it'd be interesting to see, and he wouldn't be drawn on it. But the main thing I wanted to say was the guy came from the FSF, Kev, I believe his name is, from the FSF, and he spoke very eloquently about what they do. They're involved in better ticket pricing, not just away, but the away fans specifically, but better ticket pricing overall. They're about safe standing, and they're just waiting respectfully for the finish of the Hillsborough inquests to finish before they try and ramp up anything to do with safe standing again. And they're a great organisation, and I'd urge people. I did tweet it the other day, and I would urge people to join them. It's free to join. It takes 30 seconds. The more people they have in the FSF, the more power they've got to go to the clubs and to try and get the clubs to do something about them taking the piss out of us. So again, I will say, in a bit of an early shout out, if you don't mind, to follow at the _FSF Foxtrot Sierra Foxtrot Football Supporters Federation at the _FSF. Give him a follow, get the numbers up, go to the website, join as a member, and let's try and actually get supporter power to make some changes. Because when people say, oh, you can't get anything done, they need to remember that all of the money off these away ticket prices over the last few seasons was because of what the clubs did, the fan groups did, working with the likes of the FSF to put pressure on the Premier League to actually do something. If we sit on our hands and do nothing, they will continue to take the piss out of us relentlessly. So it's time, for us all to get on and do something.
Well said. Andrew, you were there as well. Is there anything you think that Mark has missed or you want to jump in on?
I mean, yeah, it was in terms of. I mean, I know it was Mark. He lost his virginity that night in more ways than one, but it was his first AST. But from a user perspective, it was quite interesting. Usually, you just have a couple of journalists there, and it's quite easy for people to criticise it as being kind of some self-serving meeting where journalists give info. But this time, more, and as Mark's mentioned, there was a senior member of the FA there. There was Kevin from the FSF, the Football Supporters Federation, and there was also a guy from Populous, which, as Mark mentioned, is a company which provides statistical analysis of qualitative and quantitative interviews of football fans, and feeds that information back to the FA and to the Premier League and also to clubs to help them try and improve things like match day experience and just basically the general product which they sell. And it was kind of semi-interesting. They was looking at lots of statistics comparing, the demographic of Arsenal fans against the Premier League average. So there was things like, I think the Arsenal 34% of the fans, match attending fans, come from a minority background, which is against a 15% average in the UK. And then it was looking at stuff like, Arsenal fans tend to be on average 15% more. 15% more optimistic about the outlook of the UK economy, and there was like kind of stuff which you could feel that the club would thrive on. Although one thing that was quite was that Arsenal's matchday fans, on average, give the matchday experience and atmosphere a rating of 3.52 out of 5, which was the 19th lowest in the league, only one higher than Spurs. And we do come in 4th place as well, alongside Newcastle. So we retain the 4th place trophy in the 4th highest number of arrests at football games last season. Although I think the FSF said that the general number of arrests at football games are down 18%. So there was only 20. I think there was 28 at Arsenal. Sorry, last year. And in general, it's the lowest arrests have ever been at football games. So it's becoming a safer place to go to. But I mean, as Mark mentioned, the stuff with the FA was quite interesting as well. And it's talking about what they're doing. They've confirmed that there's no plans for there to be a 39th game, which is good news for football supporters. And they've confirmed that they don't intend to copy the the American NFL franchise, and by having any game abroad. And they don't want to weaken the brand of the Premier League. And quite refreshing to hear them talk about how fans abroad like to see full up stadiums, and which was good. Although some of it, I pulled them up on one part where they kind of were beating their chest somewhat about how last season QPR made more from TV revenue than Bayern Munich, and they seemed to think that was a good thing. So I challenged them on that and suggested that might mean that Sky Sports is too expensive, and actually we give far too much power to Sky as a compromise for this money, because it meant that Arsenal fans couldn't get back from Hull because after 7 p.m. despite the game finishing at 7:30. And he wasn't, that kind of flustered him slightly. And then he kind of kept pointing to, well, in Spain they have games at midnight, so why don't we do, and we asked to do that, but we never do. And which is all well and good, but the team he was picking that was Bayern Munich. And I'm sure if you ask German fans about the matchday experience and matchday atmosphere and general pricing of tickets, they'd be on average much happier than English fans, and they've probably got further to travel on average for away games. So, but it was a good meeting. There was lots of interesting debate, and it was nice to have something a little bit more, a little bit different from egotistical journalists actually. And that's what I guess I got to say on that.
Wonderful, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Andrew. Danny, we're going to go over to you next for the Twitter questions.
Yeah, talking about the FSF, we had a woman on from there a couple of years ago, didn't we?
Did we?
Yes. She wasn't an Arsenal fan, but it was talking about ticket prices. I think it might have been one of the specials that Gav or FK did.
Was it Amanda Jacks?
That was it. That's her.
Yeah, she's quite high up in the FSF. She was the lady that organised the meeting that Tim Stillman went to before the Spurs game a while back, because to try and get the supporters involved with the clubs and the police to sort out the policing and stewarding after the complete shag they made of it at the Lane a couple of months back.
Yeah, she was very good. Terrible Wi-Fi connection, but yeah, very good.
That's the most memorable bit of it for me.
No, well, okay, I know that's the first thing I think about anything.
You judge people on how nice they are by how good their Wi-Fi is.
That's
yeah, that David, lovely bloke. Shit Wi-Fi, but lovely bloke.
No, if you want to go back and have a look through our stuff, I'll dig it out and tweet it at one point because it's a very interesting listen. Here
I
we
think
go.
just to come in on one of the just there, and so
Yes.
just to come back on ticket pricing, because I know it's something that Mark's obviously, an advocate on. But one of the things that the FSF are pushing, and they said they've written to every single Premier League club trying to help. So that the big issue for the price of tickets is the price of away fans, which is kind of the big issue, right? And especially for Arsenal fans, because a lot of clubs do categorization of games. It means if you're an Arsenal fan, you get walloped as a Category A game, no matter where you go. So you could go to Norwich and you'll charge £59. But then if Sunderland go there, they'll probably pay £20. And so Arsenal fans are going to get charged the most, no matter where they go. And so the SFF have written to every club, and what they're trying to do is get every club to agree with each other that they'll only charge the opposition fans £20. That's where the 20 pennies from. But he was suggesting that they're having issues with this because some clubs like Bournemouth are just outright rejecting it on the basis that they know their stadium's only 13,000, and so they're going to make as much from the cash cow as they can this year before they most likely go down next summer. And so they're going to face a lot of resistance with that. And the problem is as well, the FA alluded to, was that it's all very well and good with these, but then teams like Sunderland and when we've seen Aston Villa, previously teams like Middlesbrough, they have such issues selling out their tickets that the ticketing strategy of these clubs is so diverse, and there's such a heterogeneous business model trying to attract customers because of the fundamentals of supply and demand. It just makes it so difficult to kind of put a one-size-fits-all solution, unfortunately. But the work they're doing nonetheless is brilliant, and it's good to see. And it's something that we've all supported on the pod.
Say heterogeneous again.
Didn't he play for Greece in the championship that they won?
Holding midfielder. They all were.
Ah, there you go. Good points there. Oh, we could talk for hours about I could just shout and scream for 5 minutes until I'm sick about the price of tickets, and I don't even go anymore. Oh, stop milking us. Right, some questions from the wonderful world of Twitter. This one is from Bell Y Jr. Don't ask why. It's early, but if Wenger won't win anything this year, should it be the last year and time for a new guy with new ideas? David.
Why are you asking me first?
I don't know.
You're trying to wind people up now, aren't you?
I'm doing it heterogeneously.
No, I think it depends upon the circumstances of our failure to win anything should that happen this season. But I'm not prepared to countenance that at this time anyway. I think we're still in three things. Let's go for it. But if I can answer it as I've answered it in the past, if we don't show improvement year on year, then it's fair enough that the question is asked of him.
What if he's making the same mistakes year on year? Because that to me is the most annoying thing.
But you see, the mistakes, I hear what you're saying, but we're talking about injuries, and we've already said that we could only have signed one outfield player, two if we'd got rid of Rosicky. So two would have made a difference, but it's still kind of not as big an issue as some would like to make it. If you're talking about him not resting players, guilty as charged, but you can't rest players when you've got 9 players out injured. So it's chicken and egg. But in terms of direct answer to the question, yes, if we don't show an improvement year on year, I have no problem with the question being asked about his future.
Very good. Mark?
Well, the interesting thing now is, of course, that he's won an FA Cup 2 years running, which is great. It's fantastic. We all enjoyed that. We loved it. But what it certainly has done is which depending on which way you look at it, it's either raised the bar or it's made a rod for his own back. Because this season, if we don't win the FA Cup, saying that if we don't win the Champions League, which I think is probably doubtful, if we don't win the Premier League, which we still could, but is looking more and more difficult the more issues that we have with injuries, etc., then he has to, does he have to win the FA Cup? Does he have to become, I don't know, the first club to win it 3 years in a row? Does he have to do that? Or otherwise, is people going to say, okay, you didn't win anything. You didn't finish. You didn't finish higher than third. You didn't get any further in the Champions League. I mean, God forbid we could this time next week we could be all talking about being in the Europa League. So I don't know. I mean, everybody knows that I think he should have gone already. Of course, it all depends on who you get in, and that can only be in the summer. I'm not an advocate of getting rid of him midway through the season. But I think it's going to be very interesting come the end of the season whether we just get a whole new raft of excuses and it's judge him next May again.
Mr. Fife.
I was just going to cut in there and apologise to the listeners for Mark's factual incorrectness. He should know that both Wanderers and Blackburn Rovers have won it 4 years in a row. So
why should I know jack shit about any club other than the Arsenal?
Because if you're going to throw out a stat that we'll be the first
Quite
team
right.
to win it 3 years in a row, you should get your facts right. This is
I
a
said,
very
mate,
respectable podcast.
And you need to clean your ears out, mate, because I said
You're coming on there throwing out
mate,
stats willy-nilly.
Wait,
Our listeners respect.
I'll see you Saturday, son.
Our listeners deserve and expect the highest integrity of football reporting.
Hold on a minute.
Wait
A minute ago, you just said Bournemouth are going down, mate. So Eddie Howe's going to be playing that voice clip to his entire squad when we go to Dean Court next year, mate. So you've just riled them all up. So if we lose, I'm blaming you.
Your fault.
So why has Fife gone all David Brent on us?
Fucking hell.
I hope so. The only kiss in heaven.
So have you got anything to say on this, Fife?
I mean, people always talk at the end of the season. They all say judge Wenger in May, and then when it gets to May, we all have a big judgment session. And the last 2 years, the general consensus has been there's been progress, which I think is it's important. It is important to factor progress. But at the end of this season, just say we do win the FA Cup, and just say we do come second. In theory, that is progress. But the thing that's always going to upset me is that we take the snapshot in May after the injury crisis, but if you look at it now, all these injuries that we're having and not spending the money we had, we could go on and win the FA Cup, and that would be brilliant. And I'm not going to belittle that factor. And being potentially the first team to ever win it 3 years in a row, Mark. But the fact of the matter is, we'll be throwing away the biggest chance we've had to win the league in a long time. And we could progress slightly, and it could be one step forward, but ultimately it could be 2 steps back. And that's the thing that concerns me, because when you look around us, Chelsea, have fallen away. This is the most boring Man United side we've seen in a long time. Liverpool started off weak and have changed managers. Man City's consistency, is more up and down than ours. And yet we are throwing the league away through all of these injuries that we're facing, through going over, we've had an entire calendar month without a Premier League victory. And, we're still a couple of points here or there off the top, which is good given the circumstance. And we might go on to end up, having a relatively decent season. But as it stands, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we could be running away with this by now. The quality we have in our first 11, compared to the disparity of the lack of quality in the second 11 and beyond, it's just really hampering our chances at winning. So, I do think we can at some point come back. I'm sceptical about whether we're going to see Santi Cazorla again this season, just given our record of saying when players are going to come back and they never really do. We're going to have to hope that Wilshere and Welbeck come back and hit the ground running for us. Rosicky usually comes back at some point and saves our season for a month of genius. But I do think as it stands, we are throwing away the best chance we've had in a long time. And I think you'll have to factor that in come May, regardless of if we're not at the top, we have to ask why.
Gimli, top that.
No, I'm not even going to try to. Move on to the next question.
Assist me, baby, which is that fly gooner. Can you come up with your best and worst Premier League Arsenal 11? So I've had a thought about this. If we can all pick them, if we had to pick a starting 11, we're not going to pick them all. We all get one player for the best 11 and one player for our worst 11. Who wants to go first? Or shall I pick one because I've been thinking about it?
Yeah, you did kind of spring this on us.
I'm going to pick Thomas Danvelikius. There you go, there's a name for you. I think he was a Latvian striker. We had him up for a short length of time. I remember he come on in a tournament. I remember him coming out of the tunnel playing against Ajax. And he was shit. I was going to say Powell Iderson, but I don't think that's Premier League era. And for the one name for our best 11, I think I'm going to have to put Bergkamp forward. So if one from everyone, one for the worst 11, one for your best 11. Who wants to go? Oh, the silence.
I'll go. You've already pinched Bergkamp, which is unfair because he's going to be number one for everybody, I would have thought. So I'm diving in second to grab Thierry. Absolutely. Oh, no, hang on a minute. Robert Pires. I do miss watching him play. Miss him big time.
That little beard of his.
Oh, you specified Premier League era, didn't you? Because Gus Caesar was on the tip of my tongue. And he's not going to make it. So, how about who was the Brazilian left back?
Silvino?
No. He was quality. He was class. The fat one.
Santos.
Andre Santos.
Santos, yeah, Andre Santos.
I'll go.
Clown shoes.
I'll go. Worst 11, Amaury Bischoff. Best 11, Emmanuel Petit.
Oh, lovely. That's only Mark and Mr. Fife to go.
Schillaci and Paddy.
Oh, lovely.
Schillaci's a good one.
He is. Mr. Fife?
So best player, worst player, Batista. And I've debated this with the guys in the pub the other night. He was shocking. In fact, he was shit. He scored 4 goals.
Yeah, he got 4 goals.
He got 4 goals in one game against Liverpool and still managed to miss a penalty. And apart from that, he had the most dog shit technique I've ever seen of a Brazilian player. I mean, you talk about Santos. Santos was positively Ronaldinho compared to Julio Baptista. Honestly, he's the only guy whose first touch would go 3 or 4 meters ahead of each. He was genuinely I would rather have kept Reyes and played him centre back than Julio Baptista. That was the start of the banter era. I remember the last 10 games of the season we had to play him up front with Jermaine Ali-Adier, and it was genuinely dumb and dumber. How he played for Arsenal is beyond me.
Who was your best one? Was it Adams?
Tony Adams, yeah.
Oh, the man's a god. If you're listening, Tone, you want to come on, you can replace me or Gimli anytime you want. Right, Cannon on Crest says, if we don't win the Champions League this season, will it be time for Arsenal to move on from Wenger? Oh, that's a tough one. I think that's a dead cert, isn't it? You're not going to win it. Gimli, what do you reckon?
Well, I don't think we're ever at the point where we're going to win a Champions League at the moment. So I think if Arsene Wenger's career at Arsenal hangs in the balance of whether we win, it's a bit of a moronic question, really. No offence to the guy that asked it, but no, winning the Champions League has no bearing on Arsene Wenger's career whatsoever. League cups and FA Cups and league titles.
No, it's only specifying the Champions League.
Oh no, then no, it doesn't apply to it. No, of course not.
It's a fair question. The fella didn't know that we were going to be asked one very similarly beforehand, so we've really kind of already answered it.
I think it's a harsh question because how is he going to win the Champions League? We can't. I know you could always do a Chelsea and 0-0 your way all the way to the final and hope that the opposition fall asleep while you're playing them. You're that boring. But
yeah, I'll tell you how he can win the Champions League. Take over at Bayern Munich.
Yeah, that's a good. It didn't say with. Did he say with Arsenal? Oh, no, it doesn't. Or maybe it does. Does anyone else?
Maybe Championship manager.
Yeah, he could do it. No, probably the game would explode if he played it. All right, we'll move on to another question. Unless anyone wants to go on that. No. Okay. This is from Proud Gooner at CDN Gooner. Does Portland have a chance to be Columbus in the MLS Cup final?
No.
How dare you? No. Shut your face. What? I'll have no hate for the mighty Timbers. Does anyone care about this game? Will anyone be watching it?
At the Timbers, haven't they got like a big tree stump there? And at the end,
yes.
The one fan saws it off and gets to keep the tree. Well, what a fucking backwards way of life that is.
That's not what they do at all. How dare you? It's a Timbers tradition. The goal scorer for Portland, the bloke cuts it off and then gives it to him. And so, top goal scorer this season is...
so the top goal scorer for the Portland Timbers has just got crappy bits of tree stump about his house. Wow.
It's a slice of wonderfulness. I can't remember his name.
Welcome to America.
Yes, Portland are going to win it. They're going to beat them. Be like the old NASL days. It's going to beat them 6-8.
Columbus
No.
Crew.
Yes.
Nah, Columbus Crew all the way. Aren't they like second bottom from the bottom of the league in the MLS?
Who, Columbus Crew?
Yeah.
No, they finished second in their division behind New York Red
Even
Bulls,
though
I
it's
think.
like watching fucking the Blue Square Premier League in rewind.
You haven't watched those quarter and semi-finals. They were brilliant.
I've
Portland
bet
are
on
fantastic.
American teams, and all I've thought to myself is I want to stab myself in the eyes with a fork.
Oh, there goes our American listenership. If Mr. Bleeding Shredder heard you say that, there'd be tears.
Let's face it, they're only supporting Arsenal because of the shit they've got at home.
You make me sad. I'm moving on now. Does anyone else have any views on that cup final? Be watching it?
Nope.
Okay, this is a bit of a cheat. I don't know why he's done this. Ahmed Nada, who is at Giza, Giza Goon, thank you, Giza Guna, says, if you absolutely had to sell 2 of our injured players, who would you sell? In brackets, the banter will be real. Oh, as the king of banter, Mr. Fife, what's your answer?
Oof, probably, and it pains me to say it, Rosicky, because I do love Rosicky, and Arteta, and then I replace them both. Arteta because he's past it now, and Rosicky he's still a genius. Don't get me wrong, but he only plays 2 games a season now, and that spot can be taken elsewhere.
But what games they are! 80-yard pin perfect passes. Oh, bless his socks. Mark, you got an answer for this?
That's the exact same 2 that Andrew picked out. I'd sell Arteta to help the aged and Rosicky to someone's,
Glue factory.
Yeah, I mean, whenever Rosicky's fit, to be fair, I can't understand the decision to have kept him, especially with the Euros coming and it was going to be his last tournament. I know he got injured on international duty, not with us in the summer, but they should have let him go so that he could. If he gets himself fit, he can find himself a club and he can go and get some game time so that he can go and play for the Czech Republic. Because I think otherwise, it was a bizarre decision by Wenger. I really don't.
He wanted to leave. He was close to joining Aston Villa, but Arsenal blocked it.
Should have let him go.
They actively blocked it, and then he had a clause in his contract which allowed Arsenal to extend his contract for 1 year. Without he wasn't allowed, without him being able to consent to it or disagree to it, it was entirely the club's choice, and they decided to keep him. And I can understand maybe they wanted him there for Czech, perhaps. I'm not sure, but you say, no, I'm just saying from a personal perspective, I would let him go.
Why? Just to help Czech get used to living in London.
That's the only reason I can think, to be honest.
I hope you 2 are going to hug this out after. Fuck's sake! You 2 are the best of mates on a match day. And you're being all mean to each other. One of you will end up crying, and I'm not fucking giving you a hug to sort you out.
It won't be me, mate.
I actually think they're lovers.
David,
mate, there's no London Spy going on here.
Don't, I'm only on episode 1 of that. I had to fast forward about 2 minutes of the sweaty stuff.
It's like the Arsenal podcast version of Brokeback Mountain.
David Savers, have you got an answer for this?
Well, I've got first choice would be the same answer as the other 2 fellas, Andrew and Mark.
Yeah.
But I have got a bit of a curveball in there as an alternative. How about Jack Wilshere, who has
50 million to City,
who has his ankle isn't going to get majorly better every time he plays. Teams take it in turn to rotationally foul him on that ankle. Yeah. So if you did get a really, really big bid from City, I'm just floating it out there as a idea.
Well,
devil's advocate that I am.
You're upset a lot of people.
I know.
Yeah, but you know what? Dave's right, though, because is Wilshere's situation any different, really, from the one that Diaby found himself in at a certain point in his career, and he was getting absolutely caned, nicking a living, blah, 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 all that shit. And Wilshere doesn't get it, mainly because, he's English, homegrown, shows a bit of passion and that. But he's got a good point, how he is. He's a brilliant player, as would Diaby have been if it hadn't been for that twat at Sunderland. But, it is how much longer, how many more chances can you give Wilshere?
True. We all love him. Gimli, have you got an answer?
Not really. No, I agree with and it's got to be Arteta and who was the other one? Arteta and
Rosicky.
Yeah.
I think on the Wilshere point there, sorry guys, so Wilshere's more like Rosicky than say Diaby. Diaby by the end come back and literally play one game a season, whereas Rosicky comes and has runs and hits form, which is a little bit like Wilshere before going off again for extended periods. So I think maybe that might be the reason why, and obviously he's got a lot more years under his belt to go.
Okay, my answer is I'd wait for Giroud to get injured and then flog him, because I don't like the French useless lamppost who's busy. You notice that when he's a substitute, he get, I'm all angry. Oh, got my French Gallic flair. I'm all angry. I'm going to do well. Oh, Theo's injured, is he? Well, I'll just mince around the pitch being a useless French lamppost again, shall I? Fucking idiot. And then I'd get rid of Santi as well. That's just for Mr. Davies, if you're listening. That's for you, Sunshine. You cheeky Welsh git. Right, next question is... Cult of Wenger from Tell the Gooner. Tell you cheeky monkey. He says, why do our so-called winnable games become anything but? I'll let Mark have that one.
Well, I mean, I've tweeted twice now a little bit of a joke about the winnable games. We had 4 winnable games, then it was 3 winnable games. Now we've got 2 winnable games. It's just where we're at. I mean, it's a combination of all the things we've discussed. It's injuries, it's lack of form, it's players coming back from injury who are not on form. It's poor defending. It's other teams playing us. They're playing the Arsenal and all of a sudden they raise their game. It's just a combination of things that who knows what the answer is. I mean, personally, I think I know I don't know what the answer is, but I think I know one possible solution to it, but it's not going to happen for a while, so I don't really know why.
Was that beheadings at half-time for our worst player?
No, it was another employee rather than a player.
Well, normally I was thinking of putting Fife next, but I need to put a 2-man gap between you two so you don't have any more fights. So Gimli, jump in the gap. Are you on mute, you tit?
Yes, I am. What was the question?
Oh dear, I don't know. Why are our so-called winnable games anything but winnable?
It all boils all down to the same thing, doesn't it? The players are absolutely blowing out their arse because there's not cover, there's no rotation. I think everything that goes wrong with Arsenal boils down to our inability to buy anyone in the summer, so I'm not going to sit here and moan anymore because people are sick of it, to be quite honest.
Oh, yeah, very true. You saved yourself there with a half-decent answer. David?
I think we tend to overemphasise the winnable games at times like this, when obviously we've had a bad one at West Brom, we've had a bad one at Norwich, and we kind of forget what we did when we went to Leicester, when we played Manchester United, when we thumped Swansea. It's a question that wouldn't have been asked at the end of October, but is totally valid at the end of November. I understand why it's being asked. I probably think a little bit differently about it than the questioner.
Oh, yes. Okay, lovely. Are you going to be nice, Fife? You're not going to pick on Mark again, are you?
No, he's already embarrassed himself, and it's enough. I think that there's not much to really add. You can take a bit of pick and mix from everyone's answers there. No game in the Premier League shouldn't take any game as just we shouldn't arrogantly label any game winnable. Every game's going to be a challenge in this league, regardless of who we're playing. So we shouldn't get too carried away. But I think the fact of the matter, and also losses do happen. That's part and parcel of football. We can't, I know we're doing Tim McDonough, but going an entire season unbeaten, the fact that we praised the Invincibles so much, it shows what a feat it was, and we shouldn't expect to do it again. So we should accept that there's going to be times when we have crap losses, but to not win a single game in the entire month of November, that's unacceptable, and that's down to a lack of squad depth. We can't, and it's down to and that's down to not spending the coffers, and I think that's the issue.
As we are notoriously bad in November, I would, starting from the 1st of November next year, make everybody grow a moustache and donate all their wages for every game that we don't win. That'll do it. That'll make them sort their lives out. Right.
Who do you think would look the best and the worst with a moustache?
I bet Czech would look a bit evil, wouldn't he? I'd like to see Wenger with a moustache, actually. He looked very 1980s porn star.
Monreal would look proper Ray, wouldn't he?
Probably couldn't grow one. Probably have to backcomb a beard. Okay, right. The notorious JED. That's real Josh Daw. If anyone gets anything from the fake Josh Daw, just ignore it. This is quite a long one that can be taken either way. As the club, back in your box. Oh, now he's unmuted. Now it suits him.
That's what she said.
Tit. As the club has spent the last few decades looking for a long-term plan, from board downwards to manager, why does the majority of our fan base still have a short-term mentality, the Norwich, in quotes, outcry being a prime example? Mark, do you want to have a bang on that? Because I'm not sure what he means.
Short-term mentality. Well, listen, most of the people who are unhappy with the manager and the board over the other issues, it's a culmination over a few years. It's not a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, obviously, results accentuate your opinion. Results probably make more people come on Twitter to vent and that. But it's not. This is not something that's only just happened recently. This is something that people have come to understand and have an opinion on over quite a few years. So I think it was probably not. It's not quite as simple as the questioner has put it.
Oh, you can go next, Fife, if you're going to be nice. You're going to be nice? No pinching or kicking him.
I'll be okay this time.
Good
I
boy.
think that the if you flip the question, why is it in the same that some I mean, if you can say, okay, so result short-term thinking, Arsenal win one game, and then some fans go on Twitter and act like, that's it. We're now going to win the league, and we've got the best manager in the world, and then every player we've got is the best player in their position in the world, and then 2 days later we go and lose a stupid game. So I think
Liverpool fans.
Yeah, well, all fan bases have idiots, and we all have short-term fans. But it's not one way or the other. And as Mark said, you can get easily swayed, and your opinion you can feel your opinions kind of manifested by specific results. But I don't think many of our fans have their opinion based on short-term views. If you look at just look at the two main characteristics of Arsenal fans on Twitter, you got your antis and your pros, and then people in between. But for a lot of it, people have had these feelings and thoughts now for a long time. And the frustration on both sides is only growing. So to say that it's short-term results, I think is a bit naive. The question. Apologies to the questioner.
Oh, that's all right, Josh. I think Josh has been on the radio show. I'm sure he is. A bit of a cheeky chatty.
Josh, I think Josh was actually on the transfer deadline day podcast.
I'm quite sure that he has been on the radio show twice.
Nice guy.
He is nice guy. Nice guy. Nice and nice.
Not like
Thanks,
Andrew.
Josh.
You behave yourself.
I'm
picking on
naughty
Andrew.
and nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
David, you got any wise words to entertain the listening millions?
I don't think I have to say anything to that, because frankly, the answer that I gave to the last question pretty much supports that question.
What, Andre
I
Santos?
Yeah, no.
It's all his bloody fault. Fat git. I hate fat people.
The one about I take Mark's point as that, and Andrew's point that people have been felt disenfranchised over a long period of time, but the negativity tends to surface in kind of droves on social media after a bad result, and isn't quite so bad when we're doing better. But you have to look at the situation, I think, as a whole and say, although it's very frustrating at the moment, we still are only 2 points off the top. I think there's plenty of time ahead in the new year for us to get upset should the injury situation get worse and results deteriorate and we fall off fall away from a title challenge. We haven't as yet. We're still in there. We still have a chance.
Gimli, I bet you can't top that.
I can. It's because we didn't buy anyone in the summer. Move on.
Okay. Right, this is a very special question sent in from someone called Brian Matovu, and it says, Mark, why did Mark organise an anti-Gazidis protests in 2012? Sprung that one on you, Mark. I hope you're all right with it.
Okay. Was that Brian? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's Brian. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the question needs to be answered. There's two parts to the answer to this question.
That's
The
quite
first,
fitting.
it is, isn't it? Yeah. The first part is that I didn't, and the second part is that Brian's an 18-carat fucking wank spanner. So hopefully that answers the question.
That is our favourite kind of wank spanner, the 80 Ghost. Gimli tried to fob me off with a gold-plated one before. But I fucking weren't having it, sent straight back to Argos.
No, Brian's definitely a genuine article, mate.
I've got someone a wank spanner for Christmas, but unfortunately, after they've had it for about a month and had some good use out of it, they'll find that it's actually copper.
Did you round it off again?
Yes.
You and your cheap bloody Chinese import wank spanners.
I know.
Are you going to put it with a wank hammer that other Jeff got you?
I know. I'm going to have a wank sander as well. Yeah, I'm going to go. What else am I going to go for? I'm going to
That's
go
all
for
you can really think of, really, isn't
a
it?
wank screwdriver, a wank jigsaw.
It is some kind of just technical, special German make of tool, isn't it? We're not being rude.
No.
Special kind of tools.
No.
For special people.
They're called wank tools.
I think it's pronounced in German Wank.
And,
we just resorted to talking shit again, haven't we?
Yeah, I've got.
We said we weren't going to do this.
I've got an
Bit like
apprentice,
Brian.
Danny. He's got a wank tard.
Oh, lovely. Right, there you go. That's all the questions. How long have we been going now? About an hour and 20 minutes?
A little bit. All we've got is predictions and shout-outs, and that's it, to the relief of the people listening to this on the tube.
Bless them. Hello, if you're on the tube. If you are watching on the tube, get up, give it jazz hands, stamp your feet so other people know you're listening to this podcast, and you might make a friend.
Exactly.
Or be carted off.
I could just,
you take the risk.
I could just imagine people jumping up in the tube now and doing jazz hands.
Do it. If you're listening to the podcast now, just shout out, stand up and do jazz hands and shout, "A Bergkamp Wonderland," and then sit down.
I reckon they should do it, yeah.
And let us know, and we'll come bail you out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know about that. We'll move on to predictions then. Danny, I'm going to start with you. I believe it's Sunderland at home, so let's have a prediction for that one, please.
1-0 Sunderland.
Okay.
And the first goal scorer is going to be...
Do you know any Sunderland players?
Charlie Adam.
No,
that's Stoke, isn't it?
Yann Villa, because he's finally been left... he's been let out from Colney, so he'll be able to score a goal.
Who's the fat Scottish bloke who scores 100 goals a game for Scotland but can't score for
Fletcher.
them?
Is it Fletcher?
Actually, I'm going to pick Defoe. Yeah, Fee-Fi-Fo, Defoe, inch-eye, private eye, he's going to score the goal.
He's
or
injured.
Is it? Or I'll pick Barini then, because he hasn't scored all season. He'll score against us. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to pick. 1-0 Sunderland, Barini.
But I will point out a fact here that Kate
Don't you
is sat
dare.
by the right of me, and she's just pointed out Jermaine Defoe has never scored against Arsenal.
What? Oh, behave yourself.
So I think you deserve probably more points if that comes
He's
off.
an Arsenal fan, though, isn't he?
Is he?
See? Yeah, he takes it. He takes it very seriously. He's not
Good.
none of this old bollocks like some of them other wankers like Gareth Bale and that. You know, I'm an Arsenal fan. Oh shit! Look, I've scored.
Darren Bent, another grew-up Arsenal fan, scored against us.
Kevin Phillips, yeah, loads of them.
God.
Well, really, the moral of this story is we should stop letting people score against us.
Or just make football illegal.
Yeah, I think. Well, this podcast would soon go under. Andrew, your prediction, please.
1-0 to the Arsenal, and then let's go for something left field. Let's say, I don't know, Bayern. No one ever chooses him, do they? No one ever chooses him.
Oh, imagine that. Imagine if he does it. I will be WhatsApping you people to remind me what your prediction was, because you know I forget.
Okay, Mark.
3-1 Arsenal. Ozil from the penalty spot.
Lovely stuff. David.
He's muted again.
Muted.
It's our fault. We bought him the headphones.
2-0 Arsenal. John O'Shea own goal.
Oh, look at that. That should be double points
Have
if that
we ever
comes
done
off.
that? We should give double points for an own goal prediction.
No, because everyone just keep predicting them and they'll never have. Well, I think we've had 2 this season.
I know,
haven't
but
we,
that's
own goals?
good. If people keep predicting them, I might win it this year.
I think Doms was going to predict an injury, but he's not sure which one because there's very few to choose from. Probably be other Jeff come on and get injured.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-0 Ozil, and my injury is going to be Giroud.
Oh, look at that. That'd be lovely. Get rid of the French lamppost.
Yeah. No, well, no. Don't be so harsh.
No,
Right.
it won't be harsh.
Shout
Who's gonna play
outs.
out
Me, anyone, I don't care. Get Gimli off the crack, and he'll be all right up there.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
The first 6 minutes until he drops dead from a coronary.
At least the game will get postponed.
It will. Yeah. There might some players back by the time.
It's not a loss. Hey,
Oh,
right,
dear.
shout outs, and I'm going to start this week by shouting out at Gooner Girl Kate, my lovely other half. It's her birthday this
happy.
week.
You're going to cheer her up?
Yeah, on Tuesday.
We're going to run away.
Might get a portion.
Chips?
Yep.
There's kiddies listening to this.
Chips. There's some chicken nuggets. Portion of onion rings.
Oh.
Whoa.
Hey, you know how to treat them, don't you?
I do.
She's a
Tell me
lucky
something. I know where the
lady.
chicken's breast comes from. I know where the legs comes from. But where the bloody hell does a chicken's nuggets come from?
I don't
The
know.
brains.
I'll be able to tell you on Tuesday. Thank you very much. So, my shout out, goes to Kate. A very happy birthday for next week. I love you loads. And it's really weird because she's literally sat right next to me. But Danny, over to you.
Mine is going to go to Pally, who is at PALLY_11. He went to all the bother of writing out his question and then tweeting it to me. And then I've only just realised that when he's done a screen grab and the picture is blank, only when you click on the picture do you realise he's done it on like a sheet of A4 or whatever it is, an entire screen grab, and it's only the top half of it. So when I looked at his tweet, it's only showing the bottom half, which is blank. I thought it was a joke for sorry the long question. So sorry, Pally, I can't even read what it says. It was something about something. Oh, here you go. Could the fact that Wenger never rests players unless injured or out of form be to blame for injuries? There you go. Finally found your question. Sorry, a bit late.
Wonderful.
But that would be applicable all season. We'll ask it every week.
Mark?
Maybe maybe the listeners can answer that question and they can tell us what they think.
Yeah, if you listen to this on a train or a bus or on the tractor, stand up and shout out the answer.
Whilst doing jazz hands.
That's it.
On the tube.
Oh, great days.
Oh, I could just imagine it. London's just going to be like Summit from fucking Fame tomorrow.
Oh,
Going to be
jumping
so
on
many people
taxis.
about just giving jazz hands. Dale Winton's going to be right at home, Arsenal fan.
I'll tell you what, in light of last night's events, perhaps getting up on a tube and starting to shout something is not a very good idea.
Well, maybe not. These are the words of a Bergkamp Wonderland, but please don't follow them, ladies and gentlemen. Mark, your shout out next, please.
My shout is to a guy called Steve Neighbour. His handle is at SJ Neighbour, as in living next door. Steve's he's a good guy, and he's very funny, very dry humour. And if it hadn't have been for Steve, I'd have never have found Banshee. And I can only advise all of the listeners to go and try and find Banshee and start watching it, because
Is that
it
a porn
is.
site?
No, it's an American TV show.
Oh.
Gimli. Sorry to
What's it
disappoint
called?
you.
I thought that was like
Banshee.
Curveballs.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, Banshee is absolutely, it's like the Spartacus, but set in a small American town in the modern days. It's absolutely brilliant.
I loved Spartacus. I actually shed a tear right at the end of that. What a fantastic series.
Wonderful. Back to the Future. David.
I'm going to give mine to a mate who I'm going to see this weekend, and I don't see him nearly enough these days because he's coming up from the south coast. His name's Jez Box. He is at SO260589. And if no Gooners know what happened on 260589, you ain't a Gooner. But he's most definitely one top lad. Looking forward to seeing him.
Wonderful.
Was he there?
Don't go down this. Don't go down this road because we
I
know
don't
where
know.
this is leading. We know where it's going, and I'm.
God,
refusing.
get on with it then. I've
New
just
Year's-
ordered me dinner.
New Year's
Cheesy
resolution
chips.
is to be less of a cunt. Andrew.
Is it?
Yes.
You never manage it.
No. Oh, come on, Fife. Get with the programme, dickhead.
So, Jesus. A couple of shout outs. There was a 72-year-old lady at the AST the other day called Antonia who bought. No. Jesus.
He didn't buy her a drink. How dare you,
No.
Mr. Fife?
Yeah, cheap skate.
Oh,
Jeff actually bought her a drink, I think.
Think all the money that you've got and you can't even buy her a drink. You must fucking squeak when you walk. Mark, confirm or
Well,
deny?
all that money from pork bellies. He's watched Trading Places.
He
Your
nicked
mate
all
on
her
Twitter.
chips. He ate
Your
all her
mate-
chips.
Your mate on
No.
Twitter has told us what you do.
Oh, Jimmy, yeah, so I'll give you a Jimmy update in a minute. So Antonia joined the group with Mark and Stephen and I, and began to insult other. Well, no, she didn't. She asked when we discussed how Mark was a member of another supporters club, the BSM, but we didn't mention he was the BSM, and she started to go on about how it isn't that awful BSM, one of those awful BSM lot, which cracked me up. Because she was such an innocent, naive lady who clearly was very anti BSM, and
without any knowledge of what the BSM stood for at all. To be fair,
she knows your type.
Yeah, give her a due. She was batshit mental.
She was just in the middle of the four of us, just going off about.
She reminded me of Lady Nina Bracewell on Ket.
What a night that was, though.
Indeed.
Yeah. A series I mentioned him earlier. I think you asked one of the questions, Ahmed Nada, which is at Giza Guna.
He's good.
Giza Guna. He's a good guy, good someone who interacts and just enjoys a good honest football debate and doesn't seem to have any agenda, which I like. And then
he's very wise as well. He lives in Egypt.
He does, yeah. And then an update on a Jimmy watch. From a couple of weeks ago, so listeners might remember my shout out. Jimmy Trader, he's changed his name to now, which is at Arsenal49 not out. He sent me a direct message immediately after the game to Norwich, saying we drew 1-1 away at Norwich, mate. Thanks for that, Jimmy. He messaged me at 11:30 on November the 28th, saying night, Andrew. And then yesterday he was in my mentions again, telling people how I'm a financial genius and I'm working my way to the top of the gherkin. And then he told people that I've been to Mexico.
That's what she said.
But then he started telling people I've been to Mexico, where I went back in February. So I don't know how he remembered that. But yeah, brilliant. He's still the jewel in the Twitter crown.
It's not you, is it? You're not like a bit of a schizophrenic or something, and you're actually got another Twitter account and you tweet yourself.
I think of all the bad rep that BSM has given Mark, I think you should give out the website and tell people how they can join, because I'm a member.
I would do if I could remember what it bloody was.
Where's Raj when you want him?
I don't go on it myself that often, do I?
You not?
Bloody know what it's about. Hold on a minute. www.blackscarfafc.co.uk. Go and read it. The website, although yes, I am Wenger out, that's nothing to do with the Black Scarf. Yeah, it's Black Scarf is purely about campaigning for the fans, for better ticket pricing, safe standing, not being taken the piss out of by the club, and getting the club to use some of that money that they keep rolling in to try and give the fans a better deal. Black Scarf. Please. Thank you very much.
I'll tell you what, Mark, I'm not a chartered accountant, but I can tell you for now, I reckon he definitely did. So
you always have to take it to that level, don't you?
Yeah, I do. All that's left is to thank my wonderful guests tonight. Danny, not you, because you have to be here. Andrew, David and Mark, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, lads. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Cheers, guys.
Well done.
Ta-da.
Shall I put on an accent pretending to be David?
Yes, do it.
You muted yourself, David.
That Zoe's been class lately. 98% pass completion.
He sounds nothing like that.
He sounds exactly like that.
Sounding more like Chris.
Perfect. Right, we'll cut that 10 seconds out. I'll go again.
Would you like me to ask you the question again?
No, you're all right. I remember it.
Fair enough.
Right, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Come on, Andrew, off the record, did you?
No, I didn't. Jesus.
Well, me and Steve did leave and get the tube together, and Andrew disappeared. I don't know where he went.
Oh, more intrigue.
That to me says he dipped it.
There's many a good tune played on an old fiddle.
Oh no, I'm not doubting it for a minute. And if you can play that fiddle, why not? Andrew clearly has the moves.
As long as you don't end up on charges.
Christ.
Have you ever fingered an oboe? And
Are you a brass or a woodwind man?
do you record her?
God.
Oh dear.
You men are feral.
You can tickle the ivories with the best of them.
That's definitely got to be the outro bit to it tonight.
You can't predict the outros.
Oh, I'll be disappointed if it's not there.
Any particular music we want for the outro?
Benny Hill.
I was thinking this wonderful group I found called XYLO. They're brilliant.
Dyslexic?
I don't know.
Given the injuries, could we maybe do the theme tune to MASH?
Oh yeah, only a certain generation of people will get that.
Yeah, true. True.
Or Chicago Hope, or House,
Yeah.
or Casualty. Casualty.
Yeah.
Oh dear, it's not fair.
Yeah,
I've
you
watched
should do the theme tune to Casualty. Would be funny.
Oh, I've been watching the whole of this Reading QPR game. What a load of shit.
Is it like the MLS?
Yeah.
Don't you start me on the MLS. The MLS is a wonderful organisation for old players and Gerrard.